Okay, in the interest of starting on time, I'm going to open our monthly meeting, and as always, we'll start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please call the roll. Here. Here. So we have a big night tonight. We're going to do some recognitions of retirees. We're going to do a promotion, and we're going to do a hire, even though our candidate's already been appointed. We like to actually do the badge pinning ceremony and everything at a regular monthly meeting, so it's recorded and family and friends have an opportunity to come. So before we start, I've already said to some people, you know, we're a big family in the village of Scotia, a very small community. I'm lucky enough to have been around long enough, so I know most of our employees and know something about them. And that's the way a small village works. So being that, the things that are going to happen tonight are once-in-a-lifetime events. I'm hoping with Mike that's the case as well. And so I'd like to just say to the family that we're going to do our presentations here. You're welcome to move, come up, take pictures. If there's things being presented or whatever, or you want an event to be recorded and you missed it, don't be afraid to say, could you redo the pinning of the badge so that you can get the picture, because these things will never happen again. They're important events in everybody's life here. So I just want to invite you to feel free to do what makes you think is best for you to remember what goes on tonight. So with that, I'm going to bring my agenda with me so I can run the meeting from the side here. And I guess the first thing I'll do is we're going to do 2 recognitions tonight, so let me come down here and take care of those. So I'm going to ask Tom Moran to come up, with the chief, of course. So Tom has been a sergeant for the Scotia Police Department for how many years?
12, I think.
I know he's been an officer for us for over 20 years, sergeant for 12. He was a sergeant, I think you were a sergeant when I came here. I know you were because I've only been mayor for 9 years. So he was a sergeant when I came here. He's always been kind of what I'm going to call a community face of our department. So every once in a while something happens where somebody from the community calls me with a tragedy and says, can you help me in some way? So I had the children of an elderly resident down on Charles Street call me and say, my mom is being scammed by these people. She thinks that she won money, and they keep calling her and telling her that she has to send the tax in and she'll get her check as soon as she sends the money for the tax. And then they've done that several times. It's depleting her account, and she just will not believe us that this is a scam. Is there any way that you can get somebody down there that looks like they're official to convince her that this isn't real? So the chief at the time was not Pete. The chief at the time was on a conference or something like that. I had to find somebody, and the person I looked to was Tom, because Tom's the kind of guy that could talk to anybody in the community, face to face, person to person, and get somebody like this lady to believe that what he was telling was the truth. So I went to Tom, and sure enough, he went down to Charles Street, he talked to this lady, convinced her that the scam was not real. So he played a real role as a face for our community, so I appreciate that. Tom.
Thank you.
So based on that kind of a service to our community, I do have a proclamation for his retirement, proclamation to honor Sergeant Thomas Moran. Whereas Sergeant Thomas Moran has announced his retirement from the Scotia Police Department, and whereas Sergeant Thomas Moran has served the residents of the village of Scotia as an officer for over 20 years, including 11 years as sergeant, and whereas Sergeant Thomas Moran provided exemplary leadership in the Scotia Police Department with duties including dare officer, field training officer, and juvenile officer, and whereas through his professional and civic actions, Sergeant Thomas Moran has distinguished himself in representing the village of Scotia Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Board of Trustees congratulates Sergeant Thomas Moran on his retirement and wishes him happiness and success in his future endeavors. Congratulations.
No speed. This is a great place to work, and the officers and the chief, fantastic. You guys are definitely in good hands.
And I'm going to ask Marty to come up. So Marty's been around forever, but actually, where did you graduate from Scotia High?
83.
83. So I came to Scotia in 1982. Marty graduated in 1983, and I don't know how I knew him, but I did. I don't think I had him as a student, but I knew who he was. When did you start working here?
1994.
1994. So in that period between 1983 and 1994, I became a chronic offender of our no parking on the street overnight policy. I don't know how many tickets I had, but I know it was a lot of money. Fortunately, back in those days, people would do you a little bit of a favor, so the court clerk at least took away the late fees, because I was not good about that either. But, so Marty started with the force in 1994. Now, when you're a teacher, there are some little hallmarks of your career as you go along. And one of them is when suddenly you realize you're getting old. So I was still in my evil overnight parking ways, left my car on the street, go out and pick up the ticket, and I pull the ticket off, and I'm like, Marty Bailey wrote me a ticket. I can't believe he did that. It was the first time in my career that I started feeling a little old, because a former student had written me a ticket for parking on the street overnight. But been a great career, Marty. I really appreciate the job that you've done for the community, and I've got a
But I haven't written it once since you've been mayor, okay?
Not that I haven't deserved it, but. Proclamation to honor Officer Martin Bailey. Whereas Officer Martin Bailey has announced his retirement from the Scotia Police Department, and whereas Officer Martin Bailey has served the residents of the Village of Scotia for over 20 years, and whereas Officer Martin Bailey contributed throughout his career to the Scotia Police Department with duties including investigator, crime scene and evidence specialist, bicycle officer, and property manager, and whereas through his professional and civic actions, Officer Martin Bailey has distinguished himself in representing the Village of Scotia, now therefore be resolved that the Mayor and Board of Trustees congratulates Officer Martin Bailey on his retirement and wishes him happiness and success in his future endeavors. Congratulations. So I just want to close that part of it by telling these guys, I've been retired for 3 years now. In 3 years of retirement, I did not have one single day where I woke up and was bored and had nothing to do. So I'm telling you, every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock, I golf. Every person in my golf league is either a retired officer from the Scotia Police Department or an auxiliary officer from the Scotia Police Department. So if you want to take up golf, Wednesday morning is over the front.
Oh, that wouldn't be ugly.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go back to our meeting. I'm going to run it for here, and I'm going to entertain a motion to promote Officer Dan Bean to the position of Sergeant, effective 7/5/2015.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Trustee Matthews?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yes.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Cuthbert?
Yes. Come on up, Dan. Yeah, you want to just stand by me for a second, because I got to start for you.
How did you get designated the
So,
photographer?
Dan's what I would call a relative newcomer to the department, but once again, been a good face of the village, and I had an experience with Dan that told me that his future with the Scotia Police Department was going to be strong. So I was up here, resident came to me, who I knew, I've known her in the past, very emotional person, crying, teary-eyed, was having a dispute with her neighbor over a fence, where a fence was going to go in their property. I don't know why Dan was up here. I don't know if he came up with that resident or if he just happened to be here. But Dan joined in the conversation, clearly, this was not a legal or a police issue. This was a civil matter between two neighbors. The most appropriate thing might have been the building inspector, but honestly, what needed to be done was a survey so that the issue could be taken care of. But Dan stood there with me, listened to this emotional woman, and when she got done, he said, "Why don't you let me go with you and talk to your mayor to see if we can work things out?" So Dan stepped in on something that was not a police issue. It was just an issue between two neighbors, but he stepped up and he went down there and he took care of it. And I have to tell you, if I need to show up somewhere where somebody's going to listen to what I say, I'm going to put Dan right next to me because I'm a little nervous standing right there. He's an imposing looking guy. So, based on that and other things that he's done here, I know he's going to be a great leader for our community. So at this point, we're going to swear him in. Dan's father, Bob, is going to pin him tonight for the badge on. And at this point, if you wouldn't mind, I want you to face me and raise your right hand. And then repeat after me. I, Daniel Dean,
I, Daniel Bean,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Code of the Village of Scotia,
and the Code of the Village of Scotia,
and that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Scotia Police Sergeant
the duties of Scotia Police Sergeant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Ouch, ouch.
And then finally, I'm going to go back to our meeting. And I actually don't have to take an action tonight because we've already appointed Mike Spalding, but the ceremony tonight. So Mike, we're not going to need to take an action. I'm going to ask you to come on. And for tonight's ceremony, Mike's sister Amanda, who's an officer with the Amsterdam Police Department, is going to pin the badge on for us. So Mike hasn't been with us that long. I've seen him driving around the car in the SUV. I wonder if he was sitting on a phone book or something like that because it was pretty big around the car. But I will tell you that what we do here is we allow our department heads to do their interviews, make their choices for whether it's promotion or hire. And basically the board just asks that at the point that we do our appointment that we meet the candidate. So we did that at a work session because we needed to get Mike on as quickly as possible on the road. So he came, he brought his fiancée. And what we do is we ask him to come in the office and just do a little interview. So it's very informal. Tell us a little bit about yourself, welcome to the village, this and that, and that's the end of it. What impressed me about Mike is he brought his fiancée out of the interview. And I've never had that happen before, but I liked it. I said, you know what, here's a guy that's bringing his family to the career that he's going to have in the Village of Scotia. So I thought that was a great thing. So at this point, I'd like you to step in front of me, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Michael Spalding,
I, Michael Spalding,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the
of the
Constitution
United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Code of the Village of Scotia,
and the Code of the Village of Scotia,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Scotia Police Officer
the duties of Scotia Police Officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations and welcome. Okay, so at this point, I know that you're all probably riveted by the rest of our agenda, but for the one or two of you who may not be interested in sitting through the rest of the business that we have to attend to tonight, we're going to take a 5-minute recess to allow those that wish to filter out, and then we'll start ourselves back up again. Okay, I'm going to call us back to order. First thing I want to do is recognize the fact that former Fire Chief Charlie Keller is in the audience tonight. We're going to be approving Pete's 211 waiver Charlie wants to know if we'll do a 211 waiver for him, so he can get back.
That's a new business.
I got my tax bill yesterday to pay it.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, item number 7, privilege of the floor. Is anyone who cares to be heard at privilege of the floor? Seeing none, I'm going to close it. And item number 8, so we have on your resolution sheet, what we need before we can do the resolutions for the items that we're going to bond is a resolution authorizing the purchase of those 3 items. So, is it on the sheet?
Yeah, just the appearance.
Yeah.
It's
So,
on the back of their resolution.
so on the back of your resolution sheet, and basically what I need is authorization for the purchase of a 6-wheel single axle dump truck with plow, wing, and salt spreader.
This is later though, right?
What's that?
That's item 10.
Well, it's
He's
going
just
to be
going out of
items.
order.
Oh, I'm sorry. I put a note in pen to myself to do this resolution so I didn't forget because we can't do it out of order.
Okay.
And I accidentally put it above 8 instead of above 9. So we'll go back to the local law. The street sweeper and the fire truck. So the first thing we need, I would want or need, is a resolution to authorize the purchase of those 3 items.
I'm moving to do that.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Trustee Mathis?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yeah.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Casper?
Yes. And then we'll skip to item 9, which is a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of a statutory installment bond for a 2017 custom suction fire truck at a cost not to exceed $591,000.
Move that.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that one? I just want to point out that this is the authorization that the payment for this truck will not be due until delivery of the truck itself. So we're not going to see a request for payment until the truck's actually delivered. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Trustee Mathis?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yeah.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Casper?
Yes. Item number 10 is a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of a statutory installment bond for the purchase of a 6-wheel single axle dump truck with plow, wing, and salt spreader at a cost not to exceed $190,000.
I'll make a motion.
Any discussion on that one? Please call the roll.
Trustee Mathis?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yes.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Casper?
Yes. And finally, I'm going to use this opportunity just to, I keep forgetting Kevin's a little bit new. Just a little protocol that we usually use is the liaison to a department gets to be the one that actually moves the. So I'm going to ask for a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of a statutory installment bond for the purchase of. If nobody tells him, he doesn't know.
It's happened to me.
Keep me guessing, guys. Keep me guessing.
Like, whoa, is somebody behind me?
For a Rego 5.1 series street sweeper at a cost not to exceed $188,000.
I'll make a motion.
A second.
Any discussion on that one? Please call the roll.
Trustee Mathis?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yes.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Casper?
Yes. People don't realize how much there is to know about
It
this.
just makes me feel like I've been with you forever now. It makes me feel good.
Okay, so let's go back up to item number 8. And that is the introduction of local law 2015A relating to appearance tickets. So if you read it, you can see what it says. The issue that we have is in our parks, we are having a severe problem with people parking illegally, in particular parking on the grass. So I've been doing a little bit of surveying myself. Pete's been in the park on weekends. It's a pretty constant group of violators, but what happens is we'll send an officer down, tickets get written, you get compliance for one day, but if the officer's not there daily, people go back to their old ways. So what this will do is it'll allow our park guards to issue parking tickets under Pete's direction, and that way we'll have daily enforcement of our parking laws in the park. So, would anyone care to introduce local law 2015A?
I'll make a motion.
Any discussion on that one?
I have a question about so the park, these are park guards, and who's gonna be involved in hiring them? Is
The
that,
park guards have worked through the police department for the last, since we've had them, which I think is about,
so Pete hired them?
yeah,
Okay,
5 or 6 years. So they sign in here, go down to the park. We have a surplus police vehicle that's marked for them. They use that to patrol the park. And then when they're done with their shift, they come and they sign back out here and drop the keys back off. We have 3 of them right now that
all right. Now, what happens, and Lydia, you might know, you probably know the answer. What happens if somebody contests a parking ticket?
Well, they would do that through the judge.
Okay, so we don't prosecute the parking ticket?
No, we do it, like, if they plead not guilty,
Right.
then if they have to have a trial, like anything else, and they have to come to court.
And the park guards are aware that they're gonna have to come to court?
They will.
Okay. And testify, potentially?
It's really not an issue. I thought of that, but I don't think it's so much an issue because most of those trials would occur during the summer when there's coverage 7 days a week, so it wouldn't be difficult to get them here. I mean, with the salary they have, I don't have a minimum recall or anything, so.
Just worried that people were just gonna figure out,
I'm sorry, what?
It'll be easier to get them to come than a regular police.
Well, it's not
If
so
they're
much-
college kids though.
Yeah, it's,
No,
Only one.
they're not college kids,
No.
they have other full-time jobs.
Okay.
So they're all local, so they're here, they live year round in the village, so, I don't see that being an issue. That was something I did contemplate when we were thinking about this, but I think that, is outweighed by the value that doing this will provide.
And the other part of this program is if there's a confrontation where the park guard writes a ticket, the protocol at that point is to take the radio and an officer will come down. So, if it becomes an issue at all, other than just writing the ticket and putting it on the car, then an officer will come down and handle that part of it.
And this is
And
up.
they're going to be, they'll be trained in what to do in that circumstance. We're just not gonna say, here, go write tickets, but they will be trained in what we're looking for and how to handle that situation and whatnot. So it will, that will be addressed.
Any other discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Trustee Martin?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yes.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Katsas?
Yes. Item number 12 is a resolution to certify Chief Peter Fazoli's application for a pension waiver pursuant to Section 11 of the New York State Retirement and Social Security Law. So the Section 211 waiver is the waiver that allows him to collect his salary as chief here, as well as collect his pension, and we just have to recertify it annually. So this is an annual recertification.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that one?
This is what causes us, we have to post something in the newspaper, right, for the job or something, so.
You have to canvass the eligible candidates to see if they're interested in taking the job. And the eligible candidates would only be people who are on the police chief's list who are not currently retirees. So I think we had, 2 responses, and both said they're not interested in the job.
Nobody has responded this time.
And you have to do that annually as well. Yeah, yeah. Anything else? Please call the roll.
Trustee Martin?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yes.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Katsas?
Item 13 is to authorize me to sign our annual contract with Capital EAP, which is our employee assistant program, effective July 1st, 2015.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? Please call the roll.
Trustee Martin?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford? Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Katsas?
Yes. Item 14 is to authorize me to execute the contract with Luby and Hoji for the village's annual audit. So annually, we have an outside auditor come and look at our books and practices to make sure that what we're doing with our money is appropriate and correct.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Trustee Martin?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yes.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Katsas?
Yes. Item 15 is to authorize me to execute the June 2015 tax warrant.
I'll make a motion.
Any discussion on that one? Please call the roll.
Trustee Mathis?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yes.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Plasker?
Yes. Item 16 is to increase A 3501, the state aid chips, by $17,445, and to offset that increase to A 5110, 4210 by the same amount for fiscal year 15-16. And what this is at the time that we put the lines in for CHIPS, the revenue line, and also the CHIPS funding line in our budget, the state budget wasn't finalized, and now it is, and we're getting that much more than we had on those lines.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Can you call the roll?
Trustee Mathis?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yes.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Plasker?
Yes. Item 17, my comments to the board, you're going to love me tonight because I only have 6. Oh, no, 5. First, I want to thank Bruce Cohout for an excellent job on the village-wide garage sale. So I don't know if you guys know it or not, but the village-wide garage sale isn't really a village event. It's done by volunteers that started it a few years ago, and they kind of didn't want to do it anymore, and we didn't have anybody, and I hated to see it go. Bruce Cohout doesn't even live in the village, but he's
Close
a town.
enough.
What's that?
Close enough.
He's pretty close.
You could throw
I think
rocks.
he's- I think he's like, one side's the town,
Yeah.
one side's the
Yeah,
village.
yeah. But he's been doing it for the last couple of years. He does a great job. And the proceeds, he charges, I forget how much to register for it. Once his costs are met for the advertising and everything else, the proceeds go to Scotia Relief. So it's a good event. So,
Yeah, well, there were a lot of people out.
yep. Yep. I wanted to hand you, take it out of my file, a draft of the invitation to the second annual Scotia Employee Picnic.
At the mayor's house.
There's some discussion by trustee Lockwood that maybe it should be at the mayor's house this year. I would consider it, but
The invitation's already heard.
at the moment,
I got it.
it's at the Lions Pavilion. So save the date, July 11th, no matter where it is. And then I'm going to print these out. I'm going to give it to each of the department heads. They'll go to our employees. And I'll give you more details as the date gets closer.
Do we have to get the insurance right for that? Is that what we require?
So it's village property and village events, so it's all just.
Maybe keep it.
As asked by this board, I approached the town steering committee on the wastewater treatment plant. The technique I took was, well, actually, I tried to make a couple phone calls and didn't have success getting through to anybody. Yesterday, I happened to be driving down Freeman's Ridge Road and I saw Tommy Capolas truck at Alan Goulan's place of business, which that was the steering committee for the town. So I stopped in. Their feeling was that, yes, it's worth just kind of powwowing together the original steering committee with the supervisor and saying, well, this is where the village is, where do we want to go? So with their recommendation that, yeah, it would be a good idea, I called the supervisor. My assignment now is to tomorrow morning put out some dates and we'll get the 5 of us together and just see what the lay of the land is at this point. So they're still in the middle of the negotiations with the city of Skagit for their sewer contract. And, but I'll be able to come back and report, what the feeling is about looking more into the joint plans. Basketball signs. So you would think it would be easy, but at this point, the basketball signs are at the printer. So I don't know how long it takes to make them. It was more complicated for several reasons than possible, but I was on the phone with the printer at the beginning of this week. Even down to the simple sign without the logo was more complicated because they needed to do a double layer vinyl sign, which means absolutely nothing to me. But they're being made right now, so we'll have them at some point. And then my last comment was just kind of a congratulatory comment to our public service departments, police, fire, and DPW for the job that they did with the tornado yesterday. So I showed up about 40 minutes after touchdown at the worst part of the damage in the village, at the end of 6th Street. And at the point that I showed up 40 minutes after the damage had occurred, everybody was on scene, everybody was working together. The street actually, except for wires down the street, was almost passable. Other areas of the village were being addressed. Simultaneously, we had a pretty severe accident at the end of Dutch Meadows Lane. Our guys were out there. Our police department, I had, I think, 25 calls. Our fire department, I'm sorry. 25,
30, yeah.
25 or 30 calls they were responding to. Police similar, as well as traffic control. DPW was out doing the things they do. So, I'm lucky enough that if you're a resident and you're in the middle of that, walking around, you see people going around, but you don't know who is who and who's doing what and whatever else. But I know all these guys, and I'm telling you, it was extremely impressive to me to see all three of these departments working together to get what needed to be done in as quick a manner as possible. So I drove down 6th Street today, and except for some leaves in the road, it's clear, power's back up, the rest of the village is clean. I know they were working all day on it, so I appreciate everything that your guys did and making this as smooth as possible. So. And those are my comments. Item 18, correspondence liaison and special committee reports. Trustee Mathis.
Nothing to report.
Trustee Gifford.
Nothing unusual to report. The planning board finally finished with McDonald's front 25 Mohawk Avenue and approved that. So Angela was hoping to get going in a few weeks.
Breaking ground?
What?
Breaking ground?
Well, I doubt that.
Yeah.
But he was hoping to.
Oh, okay.
That's the nice thing about Mazzone is once they start, they go. So,
Yeah. We had a fire department meeting with them.
That's a lot.
Nothing to report.
Item number 19, are departmental reports. Any questions or comments on the departmental reports? Anybody care to move to accept them? Thanks.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? For item 20, Trustee Rizzo is excused tonight. I went to the audit, so I'll appoint myself to the audit committee. So I will move that we pay our bills.
Second?
Any discussion on that?
Do you have to look at them now?
Well, threw me off because he did. I was like, usually Joe looks at me for.
I like to keep everybody on edge. Please call the roll.
Trustee Mathis.
Yes.
Trustee Gifford.
Yes.
Trustee Lockwood.
Yes.
And Councilman.
Yes. Item 21, approval of the minutes of the May 13, 2015 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees.
I'll make the motion.
Second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 22, approval of the May 29th special meeting of the Board of Trustees.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item 23, approval of the minutes of the June 2nd special meeting of the Board of Trustees.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 24, new business. Do any trustees have any new business for us tonight? I've only got a couple. I would like to introduce, let me find it before I do. Local law number 2015B. In our code, we have a list of areas that require a permit for use in our parks. And they are Freedom Park Stage and the baseball fields, and what's not on that list is the Lions Pavilion. So we have in our policy that the Lions Pavilion can be used by permit only, but it's not in our code. We're having an issue weekend after weekend with parties going in and having an event at our pavilion without reserving it, without giving us insurance, and without paying the fee. So Pete's been good about having officers go down there, but it's happened several times. And if push did come to shove, it's only our policy that says that you have to have the reservation. It's not in our code, it's not law. So what I would like to do is introduce this as soon as possible, and it says Be it enacted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Scotia as follows. Village Code Chapter 182 entitled Parks and Recreation Areas, Section 182-2, permits required is amended to add new paragraphs H, permit required, use of the lines below. So would anybody would be willing to move to introduce that
Make a
tonight?
motion.
Do we need a public hearing then?
Yeah, so we'll have to do it again next month to adopt it. There's a motion, anybody here to second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Trustee Mathis?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yes.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Parker?
Yes.
What's going on with that? Is it the same group every weekend?
No, just people decide they're gonna have an event there and show up and use it.
Do we have signs?
The only permanent sign we have right now is a whiteboard. So they just whip the whiteboard off. Jimmy's ordering a permanent sign that will be put at the entrance to the parking area so that it's posted right there. And then, at that point, we'll have the local law in place, the signage in place, and then there's no question. I mean, you can't blame people for trying it, but, we're losing $250 plus another $100 for alcohol permit every time that.
Liability too, right?
And we're, resulting in liability. Now, we do have code that says, in our code, it says any gatherings of 20 people or more. But we need better than that, because if there's 19 there, then legally we're not.
All right, what do you consider there? On the pavilion or, outside?
Exactly.
Hey, it's not, it's gonna be.
Yep. Yep. Okay, and then the second request, I know, Tom, you weren't there yet. Andrew's asking if we would authorize him to go out to bid for his pickup truck. It's a truck that was budgeted in this year's budget. Since the cost of the truck's going to be over $20,000 according to our procurement policy, he has to be authorized to go out to bid for it. So I would ask somebody to authorize the superintendent to go out to bid for the purchase of his new truck.
I'll make one.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that one? Please call the roll.
Trustee Mathis?
Yes.
Trustee Gifford?
Yes.
Trustee Lockwood?
Yes.
Mayor Parker?
Yes. Any other new business? Before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I just want to say that I'm starving. My wife is in California, my daughter's in Virginia, so I'm going over to the tap room for wings right after this, if anybody wants to join me. Entertain a motion to adjourn. One second, say aye. Thank you.